Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to thank and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Hi everyone and welcome to On the House, the Household Management Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Gabriella Joustra, coming to you from Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. Let's begin. Hi everyone and welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about Eco Cooks Unite, transforming leftovers and reducing waste. And I'm talking to Aakanksha Bhatia, a doctoral scholar in the Department of Management Studies in the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi Gabriella, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I am great. Looking forward to a very nice session.
Yes, I'm looking forward to talking about a topic we have discussed with other people before, but I think we're taking it in a slightly different direction. So I think it's going to be really interesting, particularly because I love food and, everything associated with food. Do you mind introducing yourself in a bit more detail so we know why we're taking a slightly different angle today?
Okay, as you introduced me, right, I am a doctoral scholar. My research relates to household food waste in India and across the world, wherein, how household food waste is becoming a very big problem, okay, and how it can be corrected at the right time. See, around the globe, we're still, suffering through food insecurity issues. We just saw a pandemic, wherein we saw such a shortage of food, coming in, and still we have food waste. It's such an irony to that, that we still, in the end of the day, if you're, throwing food, which we bought, which we cooked, and we still waste. Why is it so? So, I'm a social scientist. So my work relates to why does a person do that? Well, when you buy food, you buy it with your own hard-earned money, okay? And still you end up, it ends up in the bin. Why does it happen? Okay, so, this, I wanted to explore this, and we'll go into detail on that, okay? But then, I've been also working on food security in India, okay? Food security index around the globe as well. So this was one topic which is, though, explored in a lot of ways, but there is no apt, way of calculating it, basically. So my work, we wanted to explore this work, find determinants, find why people do that, okay? So we went into that. I've done my master's, basically. I've done my master's in economics. I've done my bachelor's in economics. And then again, my doctoral is in food security around the globe as well. So that's when we dug upon and we found that, food waste has to be looked into. And a very big reason for it is household food waste. So that's why we are here together talking.
Great, thank you. I'm very much looking forward to this. Yeah. But before we do get into that, we'd like to get to know you with a section we call Have You Met Aakanksha? Yeah. So the first thing I'd like to know is, what is your favorite book?
Okay, so my favorite book is Tuesdays with Morrie. Okay, and
I don't know it. Tell me about it.
Really? You should read that book. It is about life, It tells you about life. It's basically, tells you, the book, there's a movie also on this, if you want to go ahead. It tells you how you should live your life, basically, human connections, how human connections are important, friendships are important. In the end of the day, what would you, after being so, successful in life, what is important? It's very integrative book, basically, which says, if it's a very small book, It's a very small book. It's a 250, 270 page book. And every chapter tells you why. It's about a professor. A professor basically, he's dying. Okay. So Mori is basically dying. And Mitch Albom, he writes this book that every Tuesday he goes and meets him, his professor. Okay. So every Tuesday he tells him one life, thing that, you should cherish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Mori also looks forward to, his student coming in. And of course, being at this point of life, we've seen a few people, going, away from us because of death. And you would understand that, this is how you should live life. Every chapter tells you something that you should cherish in life. And of course, it is not materialistic. And it's the book, anytime I feel low, anytime I feel high. Yes. So this book is something a person should always keep with them. It will only give you things to cherish.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's really interesting that you say it's for a book you should go back to when you have lows and also highs, because I think those are both times when we can forget, the things that we should really appreciate in our lives. Not just when we're low, but also when we're really enjoying everything.
Yes.
Other things can be forgotten.
Yes. And you will remember people, you will remember your elders, when you actually go to that book, or somebody, you always looked upon. You will remember those people and you'll be like, yes, they lived, they knew how to live. They're telling you how to, they're around. They're the same teachings, and that you're like, oh, what are you telling us?
Thank you for sharing that. And have you enjoyed any movies recently?
Yeah. Okay. So, considering, I'm from India, so let me tell you an Indian,
Yes,
movie.
please.
So it's a very recent movie. It's known as 12th Fail. Okay, 12th, is a class. Okay, the class 12. So this movie is upon a civil servant. So civil servant exams are the most difficult exams in India. Okay, so a person who comes from a very remote background, okay, in India, somebody who failed his exams in class 12, he goes through all those difficulties. If you actually see the movie, you understand that the person actually goes through so much. He was actually, on washing toilets, doing everything, and he clears his civil servant exam. And how he does that is marvelous. It's a real story based on real events. So this guy is a police, he's at a civil servant, position at this point of time. And the story is about him, what they see. In India, we have a lot of diversity, not just in income, diversity in the kind of, facilities we have, right? So, if you're coming from remote areas, you might not even have proper, proper facilities, proper infrastructure. Okay, people who do not even, if they come out and, for studies outside their remote areas, they don't even meet their families for a year or so. They do not even contact them for that matter. So they come from there, and how you come across and what are the difficulties you face, and still you achieve what you wanted to achieve. It's marvelous. It's marvelous.
That sounds amazing, and it sounds like an amazing story. Someone who doesn't have all of the things that a lot of people have, and they're still achieving their dreams. That's amazing.
And the basic part is, it's not fictional. We've been watching this. They've been even included the person whose story it is, in back shots of the movie. So you feel for that person. That, oh my God, these are real life role models, basically.
That's amazing, especially when, as you said, when it's a real story, because it's one thing to watch superheroes, be the underdogs, but when you see a real person and it's a real story, then it shows that we can do anything that we set our minds to. And speaking of role models, do you have a role model?
I have a lot of role models. I have my, I'm surrounded by role models. When I see my mother, when I see my guide, she tells us how to be. She has achieved so much in life, okay, and still she is so grounded, and she tells us to value our relationships with her, our relationships around. She will tell us, go, take care of your family as well. So this, for me, this is what achieving is, because it's the apt, balance between life, okay, that you've achieved something professionally as well, you're taking care of people personally as well, my mother for that matter, how I am here because of her, okay, I know I am here because of her. I Handling things without her would have been impossible, okay. So these are, I mean, I think whenever you want to see role models, you see people, uh, do not have facilities, or people supporting, are the actual role models in life. So I am a person like that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Your mum sounds, inspirational and, very hardworking. I love it when people are able to balance, not just, I guess, work and their career, but also family and, the relationships we have with each other. And our last question today is, have you completed any courses that have inspired you?
Okay, so I've done financial planning courses. I've done research methodology courses. I'm very excited to see these household food management courses actually coming. I'm being very frank. It's very important, you know, because awareness, until unless these do not come into a real life scenarios, it does not become important. You know, you earn, you go home, okay, waste, you don't even get it that wasting food could be actually that big. And until unless these are not part of your courses, not understanding why, let it be through science perspective, let it be through social science perspective, it will be not looked after. So, when I personally had done research methodology courses, okay, I've done courses on systematic, planning. I've done courses on financial planning. Okay, so this is it. Yeah.
Thank you. It does surprise me that, I mean, I didn't do any like home management courses
Yeah.
growing up. And I think that, a lot of these classes that I have done, they're very theoretical and, they really make me think, and that's really great. But grounding it in something like household management, something I'm going to be doing daily, would have been really good. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I like to start each podcast with a few definitions so that we're all starting from the same place. So the first thing I'd like to know is, how do you define household management?
Okay. So household management, if you want, is something that looks into shopping behavior when you buy food. Uh, is when how you keep food, okay, how you cook food, okay, how you keep your leftovers, how you eat. Even eating habits are also a food management practice,
Mhm.
okay. And of course, the storage, how do you keep it, even labeling, whether you are able to understand the kind of labels that exist when you buy packaged food. uh, and of course, these days, even sorting behavior is also a part of food management practice. We'll get to that, how, why is it important, to actually keep packaged food, packages separately, and, eatables or degradables separately. In India, there is still not a setup for that basically. So that is why I want to, raise an issue into this, that okay, sorting behaviors are equally important when you come to household food management practices basically. So if you talk about it, when you go into shopping behaviors, I want to raise an issue into, when you utilize your money, right? You just don't buy everything that you get. You think about it because your money, right? So when
Mhm.
you're going shopping, you see what is the price of everything, don't you? Okay,
Mhm.
you buy food that is important for you. Still, when when you come back home, either order from outside, okay, or you bought that food, It was your maximum utility. In economic terms, you call it maximum utility of your money, which was your hard-earned money, right? So even then, when you went back, you kept it into your fridge, and maybe you forgot it for 2 months. What was that? It's sheer wastage of of your money or food. Food wastage involves a lot of labor as well, right? So it's not just raw materials. It is coming to you. Transportation is involved. Your hard-earned money is involved. Yet, if it is going to the dustbin, it needs to be looked. Why is it happening? Why is it that in African countries people are going hungry, people are dying because of hunger? Okay, until unless we are not aware, the biggest thing that we've been looking into is people are not aware. They're not conscious of the fact that people are going hungry because you might be just wasting food here. Okay, how could it be that it is transferred from going into your bin at the right time to somebody's plate?
Is it possible that the food that I would be throwing out would go to someone, though? I feel like, we say these things like, the food that, you throw out could have gone to someone who was hungry. But realistically, how is that food, the spaghetti bolognese?
Yeah, it is not realistically, it's a metaphor. Of course,
Okay.
you will not put it, the point is that you cannot share your wasted food. Okay. You need to utilize, you need to be aware at the right time that this is the, that is why eating, like, you said, let's unite, eco cook. Why is eco cook important? Because you are economically aware of what you're doing, right? You're not, just, if you want to make pasta for 10 people, you're not making for 15. Okay. Portioning is important. How much, there's something known as nudging. Okay. So under nudging, what happens is that, you give small, you give small plates and you give small amount of food. You can take, as much amount of servings as you want. But what happens is you will not end up wasting. Nudging, basically you're nudging a person that be careful. Take a smaller spoon. Okay. Even a smaller spoon can be that effective for, from wasting food. Isn't it? Of course, the whole idea is that if you are able to cut down, see, this will take time, but it will take time from when we are talking about households, when we are talking about something, individuals' awareness. Only if it gradually travels to every person will the person, there will be a massive change, basically. So that will take time. But then the whole awareness, I see people, let me just, in India, we see a lot of inequality, right? So we see people on the streets. It's not that we are not able to see people on the streets, or we're not able, frankly speaking, through social media, we're able to see for the whole world at this point of time that there are people who go hungry. Okay. Who are hungry. And still, if I am whoever the cook is, okay, or whosoever is managing the household activity, especially related to the kitchen, okay, so if that person is wasting food, that person needs to be aware at the first, and this the first person that needs to be aware. The person who is doing shopping needs to be aware that what am I getting? Is that, will that be used? Okay, will my money, so there are certain costs involved. Okay, whatever I'm talking to you about, I'm talking as a social, being. Okay, that you and I can think about, can talk about. So there are two price factors involved when we actually talk about wastage of food. Okay, one is the price factor when you buy that food, right? So you see the amount, okay, and you buy it, and that depends on whether my utility. I'll be using cheese. Okay, I'll use 4 type of cheese. Let's buy all 4 type of cheese. Okay, so what we do, right? Not that we ever had the intention of putting it in the bin, right? The second cost involved is when you are throwing that food. There's the cost involved. That was the price involved. Okay, when you're throwing, oh my God, do we even think? Why? Because we are concerned that, now it is stale. We don't want to use stale food. Okay. Now it has got rotten. What did we do? We kept it for 2 months in our fridge and it got rotten, right? So somehow or the other, what we are looking into is that we are more concerned about the price of the food that we buy than the cost involved and when we waste it, because we don't want to use it. We are concerned about our families, about ourselves, that okay, I should not be using, eating stale food, right? We do. If we order, we don't eat our pizza twice. If we eat half of the pizza, we don't waste it, right? We just waste it. I'm so sorry. So we just waste it. It's like, okay, I'm not eating, yesterday's pizza, right? I didn't. It was half of the price. We paid for it. So actually, the cost of the food is what is important, but we are not giving it that much important.
Okay, so, and I've certainly experienced that in my own life. I go to the supermarket, I'm like, oh, I spent so much money on food. Can't believe I spent this much money on food. And then, 2 weeks later, when I'm throwing everything out, I'm not thinking about how much I spent on the food. I'm like, oh, well, it's worthless to me now. I can't keep the food. I'm going to throw it out. And so how do we change our behavior or change our mindset so that we add value to the food so that we don't end up throwing it out?
See, one and very most important thing is awareness. When I did my research, I floated my questionnaire to people. 90%, believe me, people came to me and told us we were never aware of what we were wasting. Like we're talking now, we're not aware of the fact that, I bought this food from my hard-earned money. Right? Mm-hmm. Why am I wasting it? Right? I got it for my utilization. So I get people, there were people who told me they wasted about 1 kilogram of food every week. And trust me, it's a very small amount. It's not huge, right? So when we go into grams, we see. So it means that is good amount of food, 1 kilogram of food, one per week. They said we were not aware. We never bothered. Okay, just put it in the bin, right? So why even there are some people who do not even bother about keeping it in the fridge for that matter. There is something known as you're just evading something. There are some who will keep it in the fridge and throw it on the other day. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're just putting in the fridge and then you throw it on the other or after next 2 days, let it get more stale so that internally you're more satisfied, right? Mm-hmm. That okay, now it is more stale. Oh, I cooked it yesterday. Let me see for 2 more days. Oh, it's been 3 days now. Now I can throw it.
Yeah. I do that sometimes.
It is known as evading, your consciousness, because you know that you will feel bad that if you've thrown it for one, in just one day, you'll feel bad about it. I just made it yesterday. But when you made it for, after 3 days, you're not feeling that bad. So you understand all this is human behavior. What we're trying to understand is why is human behavior like this? So one of the, when we did our research, one of the very big factors that we looked into was the intention to avoid food wastage. It basically looks into, behavioral change. Why do people, unless there is no intention involved, you will not be bothered about wasting food. Okay, so your intention has to be there, and became a very, very important point if you actually go into, consumer theory, that, rationing your food and for your, increasing the intention of people to avoid food wastage, you need them to be more aware. Awareness, and somehow, if I can comment on developing economies, I feel this awareness is quite missing yet. It needs to be aware. Why? Because developing economies are facing this issue in hand. You are seeing, people, food insecurity at the same time. And because there is high urbanization, there is no doubt about it. The whole world is getting urbanized. At the same pace, developing economies are getting urbanized. Okay, so if you're, because of urbanization, if I may comment, okay, a lot of our working, women have come into the labor force. Okay, women, in India, women are the main, managers of households, basically. So what has happened is the social change has been a bit slower, which is always there. In economies, social changes have always been slower than any economic change. Okay, so women have started working at a higher pace, of course, but they still need to manage households, right? So, but then if you're coming back home late, right, you have to cook as well. You will not be able to give that much time to understanding that, okay, I have to cook as well, how much I have to cook, right? So what happens is, sometimes what happens with me as well is that I go to a shopping, mart, and I buy everything. Okay, we'll have some good stuff. But I know the time that will be involved, by the time I also come back, I'm equally hungry, right? So what do we do is we end up, ordering from outside. After buying so much, we end up, and usually whenever we order from outside, you might be okay eating your own cooked food on the other day. You will not be okay, eating food that has come from outside, you've ordered from outside. So that will again go waste. Okay, so due to increase in the amount of working population of women as well, and urbanization happening, there's food wasted, and you have that earning capacity. You do not mind. See, consumerism, if it has benefits, it has a lot of side effects as well, right? That, okay, this is happening because you don't bother. I know a lot of people told me, especially working women, coming and telling me that we never bothered that what we were wasting. We don't want our children to eat stale food. Okay, we ordered from outside, half of it is eaten, half of it will be thrown. Okay, so urbanization, developing economies also, now household food waste has been becoming an issue. For the matter, in India, cooking practices used to be so good. Leftovers, he was using, or usage of leftovers used to be taken very positively. It was never a taboo. Okay, so people used to, women used to keep aside, think about what can be, fried rice can be made out of rice that is kept. There are certain, societies in India which even make a very nice, recipe, or something, a very good food out of stale, chapatis also. Okay, so cooking practices. So we need to even look into that. Okay, are we doing right? Are we, just looking into consumerism? Is only, earning good important? What are we doing to our society? Right? So this is what we, talked about, or, we are getting into depth about, basically.
Yeah. And so you're saying that, so what you're saying basically is that because of the way that society has been developing, more people are going to the workforce. So there are fewer people who are available, I guess, at home who have time to do things like manage food, the shopping, the cooking, the thinking of what to do with the leftovers. And so we end up eating out more or creating more waste, basically. So I guess my question is, how, maybe you don't know how to answer this, but how can we maybe change this? Would it be something like having more home management courses in school so people know what to do with their leftovers? Or is it sharing responsibility so it's not just the women, but it's both partners in the relationship?
Yeah, sharing responsibility, irrespective of food waste, is important, of course. Okay, because until unless all people are not involved, in the household, nobody will be aware, nobody will be bothered. But for me, what I feel is, there should be all packages, should have labeling that, okay, household, food waste should not be generated. Once you're aware, see what happens with, for that matter, what happened with, let's say, cigarettes, is that you make an awareness, right? that whatever you are buying, okay, if you had to any which, see what happens is that if you go to a shopping mall and you buy something, right, you just keep it aside. If you, because you read, right, of course, whatever you're buying, you're reading what is on it, you use the use by, day best before. So there's a difference. There have been studies on labeling as well, and how it actually leads to household food waste as well. Okay, because people are not aware of even the difference between best before and use by. Okay, so if there is, you read certain things. So if there is an awareness that, okay, use this, or you could, uh, you know, by this time, and how, why is it important to see best before, okay, and use by, okay, the difference has to be more. These things should be, very open in the supermarkets. Right. See, supermarkets have their own intention, of course, of, their producers. They want people should be buying as much as possible. But it is, reduction of food waste should come from society. So everybody should be involved into the whole process. So what you're buying should be, there are refrigerators these days which prompt you. Okay, they are known as smart fridges, which prompt you that this is the food that was kept there, and it will expire before this time. Please use this. How important is that? How good is that, basically?
It would be great as well if they gave me recipes to make with it.
Of course. Recipes actually do wonders, And
this cheese will expire in 2 days. Make a mac and cheese.
Yes, and somehow this is the unawareness that, okay, I will do it later, later, basically the whole thing of evading the whole thing that I'll be doing it. However, if your refrigerator only, pings you into it that, okay, this will expire, the first thing that will come into your mind is, let me make something out of it today. Right? Recipes, even in India, the work that we did, we found out that the leftovers were the highest amount of food waste that were there.
So I was going to ask, what can we do with leftovers? Because, I mean, it feels like, maybe I don't know, what did I make recently? I made a noodle dish yesterday. And so now I've got all these noodles left over, but I don't really feel like noodles today. What can I do with those to make it exciting without, so I don't throw them out?
Okay. So for noodles, see, that is why portioning is also very, very important. You get my point here. So it's that is why when you're talking about, the first thing that you talk about was management practices. We just didn't talk about cooking. We just didn't talk about eating. I told you portioning is also equally important. That is why when you were, what happens is that we become cooks by, at least I did, by trial and error. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So for that matter, I imagine, I remember wasting so much food because I didn't have an idea that we never even bothered, for that matter, that how much was the amount of, what I should put. Was even when we started making rice, we didn't bother that we were putting, 1 amount of rice and 3 amounts of water, or 4 amounts, even if I was alone. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's why, that is also very, very important, is that when you're cooking, you cook, if you want to cook for yourself, this is the amount that you should be cooking. You should not be wasting, of course, there can be wastage when you're eating. A bit of can be understood also, okay, because that happens. But it should be cooked for, let's say, maximum 1.5 person. If you're, cooking for 2 or 3, it means this was the point that you have to look into. Not into how just, of course, leftovers need to be used. You have to see how you can use it. In case those noodles were simple noodles, you could have actually made something out of it, right? So, when you're cooking, you should be aware, okay, I'll put the sauce later on. Let me put this aside. Don't you think, right? Don't you think you could have used it into another, recipe another day? Maybe use it into your soup and all, if it was simple noodles, right?
That's true. So instead of making all of the stir-fried noodle dish, keeping some of the noodles aside, and then tomorrow I can make a different stir-fried noodle dish, or I could make soodle noops, soup noodles.
Soup noodles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
So these are things I think, we all need to be aware of. It needs to be, household food management practices should be taught during, let's say if it's not very early, but then, from your ninth and 10th, when you completed your basic education, it should be one of the courses, like we've been talking about courses. It should be one of the courses because I think it is important. Why shy away from it? Right. In the end, if I have to come back home and try, by trial and error, if I have to learn cooking, I will mess up and make food waste, right? I have no idea about the portions. I have no idea that, okay, if I'm serving somebody, let me just put everything on on their plates. And, if they don't like it, they don't eat. They just waste it, right?
Yeah.
People were coming, they will, of course, do that. So portioning is equally important, leftovers, very important, you should not, we know that we actually had put a lot of, what happens when a mama cooks? Do you waste it the other day?
Yes.
Okay, so in our case, if I'm, what happens is that, if your mother cooks or somebody very close cooks, what you do is next day they made it tasty, or my mother cooked it for me. So what do we do? See, there's an intrinsic value to food as well. If she cooked, I know that I will not get that food, for another 4 days. I will reheat and eat it.
Yeah.
But I don't have that, value attached to the food that I cook.
Does that mean that we should share our food more so with our loved ones so that we are not only, I guess, if you make too much food, we share it and there's less food waste, but also when you give food to other people, it sort of gains more value because, someone that you love made it.
Exactly. That is why, your mama cooks a bit more, but somehow she always has ideas about how much amount of food should be cooked. Right? And so
Yeah.
but if they know that they will, eat it again, they will cook more. Otherwise, then food is appropriate for us. I don't know how that happened. That is magic, maybe. That this is why it is important. Sharing is very, very important. However, if I again go into social science, I want to touch a very big point here is coming of the pandemic. Okay. So what earlier used to happen was that if you had a party in India, it has happened. If you had a party and there was a huge amount of food that was, left, what was done was it was distributed amongst the poor. Okay, we used to go distribute amongst the poor. Then after the pandemic, what happens was, sharing possibilities are a little bit diminished as well. Okay. This is despite the fact that we've seen a lot of food insecurity coming after COVID, right? So, of course, they're being, out of away from all these diseases is equally important. So, people have shied away basically from sharing of food, especially because, these diseases can be communicable through anything basically. So, COVID, how my work also touches the fact that how COVID-19 has impacted people. Why? Because what happened after COVID-19 was there was, salaries diminished, So what happened was then again, price factor comes important. Now when you're going home and you're, going to the mall and you realize, oh, that is expensive. Now I have to take care of my food wastage. See, the whole point is that it is not just about you. Whenever we go, we should look into economic factors involved. When we waste food, we buy food. That's a whole management practices come. Whenever we make portions, we should not make that much rice for, maybe 3 people, right? The whole idea is that if you're putting it in the bin, it's a sheer wastage. Nothing can be done about it, right? So people being aware, when we actually have courses which talk about management, food management, they should, you know, also have a topic on awareness amongst the people that how can food wastage be reduced? How can leftovers, recipes, like you've been talking, everybody has given me this. There should be recipes coming from leftovers. There should be recipes coming from leftovers. Frankly, if you're aware, let me tell you, Google it and you'll get recipes for your leftovers.
Okay. That's true. I mean, everything, you can find everything on the internet now. So it's not that we need to be told what to do with the leftovers. We just need to have the initiative to look for it. And we need to be aware that the information is available for us.
Yes, yes. And if you have the intention again, if you have that intention, do you don't want to waste food, or you want to, okay, let me do something else? Because kitchen is for me, I always think of kitchen as a science lab, right? Because you're always experimenting in the kitchen, and so every time, and there are days you want to cook something better, okay, I don't want to have cheese today, I want to have this. Somehow you're more of this is how human behavior affects, right? Human behavior is affecting. So that is why there are studies, social science research is basically digging into that only. Why is that people are not sorting behaviors, okay, that leftovers? Because one more thing that I would like to this thing is that people are studies are concentrating on just package, when you're talking about packaged foods, or wastage of food also. So they're looking into only package, what amount of plastic has been wasted due to packaging as well. Okay, so all these things also need to be looked into basically. Again, I will stick to the fact, because most of the research, be it developing economies, awareness is the key. The state needs to intervene. State needs to tell people that, okay, look around, see that there are people who do not even get food. So if in case, why is it that 2 months back, if I was told that, okay, certain units of money that I was wasting, I was putting on cheese, if I was throwing it, and if I realized that 2 months later, okay, I wasted it, I could have given it to somebody who was more useful to, right? It could be one day's meal for somebody. What happens is that within 2 months, real time, humans do not think. It has to come from us. It has to come from us. Only then we can think of household food waste to be reduced, basically.
So I think I try, as you've been saying, to only buy food that I need, and to think about portion sizes. But sometimes I go to the supermarket when I'm hungry. It's been a long day at work, and maybe I buy something that I don't really need. I buy the fancy yogurt, because even though we've got some yogurt at home already, or I buy some really nice chocolate, and then I don't eat, I don't know, the fruit that I have at home. Can you talk about impulsive buying, and maybe how we can try to stop, our impulsive buying, so that we don't end up wasting the food we've already got at home?
Very, very true, and very, very important. What happens is we actually go, and this depends on our demographics. Mostly females do that. So we see promotions, buy one, get one, and we see 50%, 70% discounts, and we buy food that we are maybe not even going to use, But there is there's a different urge that I'm sure most men do not understand, the urge that, okay, there is so much discount, See, shopping malls will do all these promotions, That is why when we talk about it has to be a societal, difference that is there. Usually we know, and we see that these things which are on these promotions, special offers, are something which is going to expire very soon, right? Now, either that needs to be consumed at the right time. Okay, if we buy that, it needs to be consumed at the right time, or we need to actually fight with the urge of not buying it if we are not, going to use it very soon. So Uh, your shopping habits, they play a very, very important role. That's why, when we have men going out shopping, that is why, again, when we talk about both sharing equal responsibilities, right? This is all nudging. You're nudging that person. Are you sure you're going to eat it, right? That is what happens, right? So men, what happens? There's a normal shopping behavior activities between differences between men and women. Men can go and uh, buy it for 5 times the amount for what they need, right? That has been seen in studies. And women, if they find more promotions, we will buy 10 times the thing, but because it has been promoted, it has special offers, it has special discounts. So nudging is equally important, and that is why if you're alone, we've also seen in a lot of studies, we've seen that what happens is if there is a bigger household, okay, the household food waste per person is lesser. And like in this case, again, we can talk about sharing activities coming in, right? And at the same time, nudging is coming in. That okay, you're not wasting food. Okay, we want to eat. Okay, why did you take so much yogurt which was on promotion?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so yes, shopping habits play an important role in management of household food waste as well. This is the first point wherein it comes. Shopping has to be looked into.
Okay, so maybe we should, because I guess having other people around us makes us more accountable and less likely to be influenced by those promotions. Does that mean we should go shopping as a team, maybe bring someone else with us?
Yes, won't that be interesting? Yes, even if we are with a friend, this happens, our friend will tell us, why are you buying it? We were planning to go outside tomorrow. It happens, right? We were planning to go outside tomorrow. You were telling me you were going to your mother's place. Okay, so why are you buying so much food? Or so much, so much of fruit. Oh, there's a fruit in your this thing. Somehow it happens. So, being together can really be effective, I guess. Interesting.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. And then again, I guess we have the sharing of responsibilities. If two people who live together can go shopping together, maybe we're sharing the load, both metaphorically and literally, because we're both carrying the shopping.
Exactly, right? And it is good for society as a whole.
Exactly. Amazing.
Yeah.
I have another question as well. I did mention before that, sometimes we go impulse shopping and you buy things you already have because you're like, oh, this apple looks so good. And the apple I have at home, it's been moldering for a bit. It's a bit soft now. I don't really want to eat it. So how do we avoid doing this? Or how do we use up those vegetables and those fruits that aren't quite as good looking anymore?
Yes, this is very, very important actually. What do we do is, if we think, for that matter, if you understand, right, bananas are actually better in nutrition. But somehow a banana which is yellow excites us more. So this is the urge that we need to look into, that okay, or something that is, if not, then you can use that apple for a smoothie maybe. Okay. So we try and use, we should be aware of what we are wasting. My intention should be that if I'm if there's an apple, it could have been eaten by some, if not an unprivileged, somebody else. It could have been utilized at the right time. It has gone through a long process of production, right? There was a seed, um, it was transported, it was kept in the mall for such a long time. I bought it with my heart and money. I kept it in the fridge. Then why am I not being affected when I'm putting it in the bin? Okay, let me try and see what can be best. It's just, of course, something which is completely spoiled is not even considered a food waste actually, if you actually dig into it. But then if it is just, it is just rived, then we can actually use it properly, right? You can use it for smoothies, you can use it for cakes maybe, right? The
Yeah.
whole idea that, okay, and being aware when you're buying it, when you're buying it, that, okay, first I'll use what is there in my fridge,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just because I have money in my hand, I should not be, just thinking, okay, let me buy 100 bananas. No, it doesn't happen like that, right? So being aware what is there in the fridge, maybe, they can be, like we talked about, smart fridges. It can be connected to your phone, right? Your mobiles, and you can check what all is there in your fridge at current time. Happens, right?
I actually got a really great tip the other day, which was to take a picture of your fridge when you go shopping. So you can, even if you can't quite remember, you can maybe have a look at the picture and see what's in there.
Yeah.
Because as you were saying before, my partner loves making juices, but sometimes he forgets what he's already bought. And so we had about 5 or 6 apples in the fridge that were all going off and they were getting a bit soft. And he just kept buying more apples because he was like, I don't have any apples. I should make juice. And then eventually we had all these apples and I was like, oh, what am I going to do with all these apples? So, I mean, I took the initiative and I peeled them and I actually made apple, I forget what the word is, puree, apple puree,
Great.
so that I could actually eat it.
And this is how, we were talking about two people being together.
Mm-hmm.
How it actually, we avoided food waste here.
Yes, exactly. Although I didn't stop him from buying apples.
Yes, I can understand. Again, human behavior.
Yes. I guess we're taking, even if we're not perfect, we're still trying to take a step in the right direction by preemptively avoiding the apples from going off.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You made a puree, for that matter, tomatoes can be, kept like that, by making purees. And they can be, very, very useful in Indian dishes. Let me tell you, and almost every second day we need to use tomato purees. Hoarding is actually one more thing, one more reason that, leads to food waste again, because storage activities, it's not just, refrigerator, which takes care of your, so there are dry food also, which gets wasted at the same time. So, hoarding can actually lead to food wastage, because you end up, you open and you see, oh my God, it's all rotten. You kept it because you thought, oh, you might be using it because there might be an expectation that the prices of that food item might rise, right? So when you open it and you realize, oh my God, I wasted it just because I hoarded that material, right? That happened during COVID-19, actually.
Yeah, that actually happened with us. We had a little bit of a panic, and my partner went out and bought a lot of produce that we don't usually buy. So things like dried beans and quite a bit of tinned food. And I had to make a really active effort to make sure that the tinned food that we had actually got rotated, so they weren't using all the new things and leaving the older things behind. But some of the beans that we bought, we don't really eat a lot of beans. I don't know why he bought them, and they ended up going off, and we ended up throwing them out, and I felt bad about that. Yeah, but we'd had them for like 5 years, and I was like, oh no,
Oh my God.
maybe not 5 years.
5 years big.
Yeah.
It's the longest that I've heard of.
Yeah. We kept them for quite a few years. We got them at the beginning of lockdown.
Okay.
And then we had them for, I think, end of 2023, so 3 years.
So coming to lockdown led to a lot of hoarding, not just here, all around the globe, people hoarded, people were like, okay, let us order, because there was a panic-like situation that, okay, you will not get food the other day, so people just started hoarding food, okay? And what happens is, in the end, because you're keeping in the shelf, you were still nice enough that you were, rotating it, right? People just kept it because people getting worried that I might not get food. Okay. This was happening at the time when you realize that, okay, there is, dip in incomes. Still, people were buying food. And in the end, when the whole panic situation had just moved out, you wasted food, it was just thrown away. I know people that still are not bothered also that it's okay, it got wasted, that kept us fine, okay? you know. So I think very important that people, you are aware your intent should not be to waste.
Mhm. And I think that I guess the worst part for us was that we ended up wasting a bunch of food that we don't eat very often. So my partner, he bought beans we don't eat. He bought UHT milk, which he doesn't like. And so, but when we did have COVID, we ran out of fresh milk and he refused to drink the UHT milk. And so, in the situation that he had prepared for, we didn't even end up using the products that we had bought for it because it wasn't something that we used. So, I guess what you're saying is that we need to be aware of what we do eat. And we also need to be aware that we shouldn't hoard, we shouldn't buy extra food because we just don't need it.
Exactly, if you're aware of what you're doing, what you're shopping, what you're cooking, what you're eating. See, eating is not, of course, but when you realize that there's so many resources involved in that, in the amount of, beans that you kept at home, and in the end, it's not being used.
Mm.
We make, it is a right to food to everybody. Still people, sleep with the hungry stomach, so if you're aware, and I can understand that, and not, it takes time, if it travels, of course, women are emotionally more involved into it, understand it better, but then we can equally, nudge our partners to understanding the whole idea. If it, and plus, if it becomes a habit in the household, to make this portion, if we make a chit for it, that okay, this is the amount if you want to make noodles, okay,
Yeah.
for one person, this is the amount of noodles you use, right?
Mhm.
So do you realize how effective can it be?
Yeah.
You know? So these things are what need to be inculcated in, because it's very important that we're discussing it today,
Mhm.
right? There was no need, 20 or 30 years back talking about it. Why are we talking about it? We are realizing that this is going large. Okay.
Mm.
If something that has gone through so many resources are being used for it, right? It has come, something that is coming till our plate is an end product.
Mhm.
Okay, food loss has already happened. This is
Yeah.
food waste that we are doing. Okay, so all these things that have happened, it is coming till our plate, it is coming till our household. Now it is our responsibility.
Mm.
That something that has come across such a huge cycle should not go into the bin, because after the bin there is no point.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. And you have mentioned habits. So I was wondering, what is a practice or a habit that you do to manage, in your own home that you use to manage your cooking so you don't have food waste?
Okay, so I really believe in portioning. Okay, I am a person, I really, plus what do I do is, like I talked to you about, if I have to make fried rice, if I have to make anything from rice, what I'll do is I'll make boiled rice. Okay. So if I have to, make something out of it, maybe, biryani, it can be used after that, it can be used in portion. That using rice the other day cannot be an issue. And rice is a staple for us as well. Okay. So basically, we can use the rice tomorrow with some lentils as well. Right. Maybe eating biryani the other day might not be okay for me with lentils, but I love boiled rice, or anybody loves boiled rice with, lentils the other day. And it's not at all an issue. I have a small kid, so he has not different preferences. So with boiled rice, if I have to give him something, I can, I boil peas, and I mix it with him for him, put some, we like ghee, so we put some. So what do I need to do is, I just need to, give him a bit of rice on this, and that portioning has really, trust me, has really affected, the amount of food waste that has been produced. Because frankly, even I got more aware of it when I dug into it. When I saw, I was shocked. When I got the kind of statistics that I actually got, and I'm very much into trying to raise awareness amongst people around me, through my research, that please be aware that, we have been awaiting that, there is still debate about the developed and the developing economies. So there are debates which say, okay, developing economies do not need to, worry about food waste. So we need to raise that awareness. Though, no, see, mostly developing economies, especially in India, we have a population which is so high. Okay, so if population, even if there is smaller amount of food waste per person, but can be so much more because of high population. But
Yeah.
so
And I guess it's also, stopping it before it gets to be an even bigger problem.
yeah,
People get even more relaxed with it.
yes. So this is what we need to. Why do we need to? I mean, if we are aware of it at the right time, we might be, and we are wasting a resource that has come to an end use. If we are aware, if we are able to take care, if we can provide raw materials to people who are unprivileged, or there are centers, we can provide these raw materials there. Until unless we're not aware of it, we'll not be able to do it.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing, that you've, I guess, experienced it yourself, and that you have employed practices that helped you. Because I think it's one thing to say, we should do those things, but it's different, I think, being in the situation where you actually have to employ these things. So it's really good to hear that, you've had to deal with this yourself, and you've got lots of experience.
I'm still going through that experience, and I love to see, our when we go into, our, because we have in India, we have diverse societies, okay, and we see when we, of course, all of us are now on Instagram, and we see, the recipes which use leftovers, and they amazingly come out, and different societies, Rajasthani, Marwaris, how they use, this was used anciently, these recipes were there anciently, and we were like, okay, no, we're not used. Now when we into it, we understand the importance of it, basically, so yeah, I feel very, very important. Plus, I want to raise this thing that now when we have, in India, we have uh, facilities like wherein we get our groceries delivered in 15 minutes. So why do we need to hoard?
Exactly.
Right. So I think that's a very, very good thing that comes out from it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And there's the companies that will, provide the exact amount of ingredients for each dish, means that you won't waste, you won't buy a whole onion, you'll have half an onion, and someone else will get the other half an onion. I love those.
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing, how you have, how you've been, finding recipes on Instagram. That's amazing. Our next section is the open mic, and that's a chance for you to talk about something that you're passionate about. And what do you want to talk about today?
Okay, so I'm working on food security in India and around the globe, of course. So I would like to, raise certain issues on that as well. Basically, there have been still a lot of I work, my work associates with the Global Food Security Index. Okay, it has around 76 indicators of food security. Okay, let me tell you, it misses household food waste measurement. Okay, yeah. So why? Because again, when we talked about human behavior that is not even measurable properly. So that is why, my work also associates with trying to find determinants of household food waste, right? Kept it aside, coming back to the, measurement of food security around the globe. Okay, so my work, and I am trying to explore that how can a food security index basically be localized, uh, in India. Okay, so because we have around 36 union territories and states, how can it be used and measured for all the states in India? Okay, so and considering that these indexes, have data gaps, data availabilities which are not there, which is very very common thing amongst research scholars, also researchers basically. So we try and explore whether something can be there can be proxies, basically surrogate measures that can be utilized to find an index which appropriately measures the food security of, for that matter, it can be replicated for other countries as well. What could be the method? How could you find a surrogate, okay, which can appropriately give? So when we look into food security, uh, there are 4 dimensions which are given by FAO basically, which talk about affordability of food, okay, availability of food, sustainability, and dietary diversity. So I'll just give you a brief into it. Uh, Affordability is like whether you have that kind of an income, like we talked about African countries. We see that affordability, there can be less affordability in India. We see in certain states affordability dimension can be very very less. Poverty, if there is a lot of poverty, we see people will not be able to afford basic food, facilities. That's why, again, when we talk about the diversity, we see food waste and food insecurity, people going hunger. And if food waste is equally, existence in a society, okay. So don't you think we need to look upon that there is some issue, right? There needs to be a balance. That balance needs to be, uh, checked upon. So affordability, availability, whether we have production is equally important. Do we have grains, like we talked about food waste, beans, you talked about beans coming in, right? You had those beans, right? COVID-19 saw us seeing that these things will not be even available. There was a panic situation. COVID-19 uh, you know actually saw us into a panic situation. We went through a panic situation where we thought, okay, farmers are not willing. Because why? Because they thought that the world is coming to an end. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So again, availability, whether you have that kind of infrastructure. Again, when you talk about resources, what happens is it's been produced. How will it be transported to your areas, to our areas? Is it transported properly? Okay. Whether you have irrigation, storage facilities of crops, okay. Then there is diversity, dietary diversity. What you're eating, is it appropriate? You're getting vitamins, you're getting folate, you're getting iron, or you're getting proper absorption of all vitamins that you need. Okay, calorie intake is proper. We, in simple words, we only look into calorie intake, but dietary diversity is very very important around the globe. Okay. And lastly, but not leastly, is sustainability and adaptation, which talks about, are you just, cutting down trees and, using it for crops? No, you should not be doing that. Okay. Whether you're using pesticides, again, if it is going into the food chain, it has to be looked into, then disaster management, all these are, terms which actually build up a food security index and which measure food security properly. And again, food waste and food loss. And one topic that we've touched is household food management practices, right? So whether we are looking into it properly, how can, food management practices also be inculcated? Even in my research, I am, talking about it, that how can food management practices be inculcated, into an index? Because that is coming out to be equally important, right? So this is it, trying to find out how we actually can, globally, let it be globally, or basic. The whole thing is that we are doing it together, that we alleviate basically, food insecurity issues around us. Let me take it very simply, around us. If we are seeing this, because we see everything, on our, tablets, basically. So how we can evade it, how we should, my practice should be sustainable, should not just for my future generations, for people who are around us as well.
Yeah, that's true. I think that sometimes we do think the environment for our future, for our kids, and food security for the people in the future. But it's not just for them. It's also for the people who are around us now, because they're the ones who are experiencing the effects as we speak. Thank you for sharing your work with the Food Security Index. It sounds very complex, and yeah, I don't know how you're going to include household food waste into this, because I don't know how you'd measure it. I mean, you're doing some really great work to measure that and to, I guess, explain what it is and how we can combat it, and then melding that with the Food Security Index. So thank you so much for sharing. And if our listeners want to find out more about you, where can they find you?
I am on LinkedIn. I am on ResearchGate. I am on all social media. I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram with the name of Aakanksha Bhatia. Yes. So you can find me anywhere. My email IDs will also be available on ResearchGate and LinkedIn. I can be easily contacted.
Thank you so much. We'll make sure that those links are also in our show notes so everyone can find you. Thank you. It was great to speak to you today.
Me too. I had a wonderful time. You were a very good listener, actually.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You've been listening to On the House, produced by the Household Management Science Labs, a division of LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes like this from across 10 life management perspectives can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and other podcasting apps available on your smart devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps other people find it so we can grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website at hm.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Gabriella Joustra. Thanks for tuning in.